Great. Hey, my name is Noah, and I am going to show you how to get set up with iAm. Assuming you've already installed TestFlight and downloaded iAm, you should be presented with a screen similar to the one that you're looking at right here. So the first thing would be you'll want to sign up, which you can do by clicking the sign up button. You'll be asked for some basic information. I'm going to just create a test user real quick. And you will fill out your email and create a username. Okay. And then produce a password. And then ensure to accept the privacy policy and click Next. You can then select a series of whatever interests you have in regards to meditation, phenomenology, consciousness studies, psychedelic research, psychology, etc. And then list your familiarity with contemplative practices. Okay. You will then have your account created for you, and then you will be logged on to the application itself. I have currently disabled email verification because we're just in the beta. But yeah, once you log in, first thing you'll probably notice is that you get a list of all the features currently that are on the platform, and you were given a little tutorial of how to access things. So I'm just going to click on this little question mark button as it will actually take you back to the tutorial. And yeah, this just gives you a guide of how to actually use the app. And you can just quickly go through. You'll see there's a bunch of navigation buttons at the bottom. Will take you back to the home screen. This right here shows a list of your recorded sessions, almost like as a sort of Instagram feed. You can do offline mode and public mode. Public mode shows you what data other people that have used the app are sharing through the iAm community. This button right here is how you actually do recordings. So you can click on it and it'll give you a list of sessions that you've bookmarked for you to actually quickly start. An example would be like a meditation session where you can just set a timer, meditate, do whatever you want, or you can do more advanced experience tracking. Okay, next we have our stats page. If you click on this, it'll give you a list of options to choose from, and this just gives you data tables for different types of thing on iAm, and I'll show that shortly. And then lastly, we have the visualization tab. This actually is not a functional feature yet in the mobile version. It does kind of work in the web version of iAm, but I'll be working on this feature over the next couple weeks to make sure it looks really nice and pretty for when I release it. So look forward to that. Okay, this calendar view right here is your recent activity. This just will show you what sessions you've actually done throughout the current month, and you'll be able to see more of this once I actually do something. Okay, next, this is just how you can explore around your data. You can join us on Discord. And then lastly, hey, if you ever have any questions or are confused on how to use the app, this little yellow icon will be on most pages. And if you click it, it'll give you information. It'll give you a tour on how to use that particular page. Oh yeah, and then last but not least, this little icon up here gives you information or gives you the ability to give us feedback. So if you ever come into a bug or there's a certain feature you want, or just have some general feedback. Hey, this button doesn't look good. I think the UI would be better this way. I'm super open to any and all feedback. This is a work in progress, so I'm really looking forward to you users giving me feedback so I can make this as good of a product for you as I possibly can. All right, so now we have landed on the homepage of iAm. What can you use iAm for? So at its most basic, iAm could be seen as a meditation timer app at its most basic. So once I log in, maybe I just want to meditate. I can set a timer for how long I want to do it. Maybe it's just 10 seconds. I can, if you're familiar with Insight Timer, we can actually save presets. So in this case, I've set it for 10 seconds. So I can now create a preset called 10-second meditation and submit. And now I can select that preset whenever I want to. I can then click Start Session. And we just have a really simple timer. Then once it's over, you'll be taken to the review page where you can actually submit that data or you can discard it. There's no data because this is just a very basic meditation, so nothing really to talk about. You can also add tags such as whatever you really want. So I could put my first meditation and create, and then I can actually have that tag available. The tagging system's not super feature ready just yet. You can create tags, but there's not a very good way to search them. But once again, this is the beta, and I will be making a lot of improvements over the coming months. You can also take notes when you're using the app. So if you want to take some notes about any reflections you've had on that particular meditation, this data will be available. And assuming this is a useful feature for the community, I will definitely focus on getting some export functionality so you can just kind of be more data driven in reviewing your meditations. I also didn't mention this, but before you start a meditation, you can also take notes at the beginning. So you can take notes before you do it and then take notes after. Okay, I'm going to click Submit, and we can see that there are 3 options. So here at iAm, we highly respect your privacy and your data. This is not a data grab. This app is focused on giving you the ability to, in a safe, secure, and private way, better understand your own experience. With that said, we'd love to see what other people experience when they meditate, when they observe their own inner world. And that is a big focus of this app, is encouraging people to share what data they feel comfortable with for the community, so we can all actually get a better insight into the inner phenomenology of people's experience. So you have a couple options. You can save and share anonymously. What this will do is it will upload the session and any content you reported during it to the iAm servers, which will make it available to be seen by anyone. But because it is anonymous, the data will not be attributed to your account in any way. What this also means is that once you have shared it anonymously, it cannot be pulled back because there's no way to know it was your data to pull it back. So just keep that in mind. You can also share it publicly. So my account is testuser42. So if I do this, it's the same thing as sharing it anonymously. The only difference is it's not anonymous. So this data will be associated with my account, and people will be able to see that this data is associated with testuser42. When you share it with attribution to your account, it will, or you will have the ability to actually delete it if at a future point in time you do not want that data to be on our servers. So I'm going to save it as my user account. And once it is saved, you'll be taken to a details page where we'll give you a review of what information was reported. So in this case, we have the tags that you reported, the ID, when you started, when it ended, how long it was, in this case 10 seconds. Reporting mode simply refers to what type of data or what measurements occurred. Simple timer just means you're simply using the timer, you're not doing any data collection. Session type, in this case, is meditation, and total experience instances is 0 because I didn't report any content that was occurring in the moment. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple quick actions here now that I've got this. So because this has been shared publicly, we can see that there's this little field called server ID. This is the ID to uniquely identify your session on our servers. If you do not want that data to be visible on our servers, you can simply hit the unshare button and it'll let you know that data will be deleted from our servers. Click yes. And now we can see that the share button is now visible again. There's no server ID because it's been deleted from the server. And lastly, you can click the delete button if you ever choose that you want to get rid of a session. You can click delete, and this will actually delete the data from your personal device. And if it is shared with attribution to your account, it will be deleted from the servers as well. So it will do both. So I'm going to keep this session. And let's move on to a little bit more advanced tracker. So I'm going to show you verbal thought tracking. So this is my personal favorite, or at least it used to be. This is a special type of session where we are focused on objective data collection of our own inner experience. So you can see right here where it says reportable experiences and it says verbal thoughts, right? So the way that you are supposed to do this particular session is simply treat this as a meditation. And once you start it, all you're going to do is observe verbal content that arises in the mind, right? So, and it's really important to stress that I'm talking about something very specific, not visual content, not non-symbolic thought where like there's meaning, but there's no actual like spoken word being perceived in the mind. I'm talking about very specifically thoughts that have words that can be perceived in the experience itself. So I'm going to start this session, and 5 minutes is way too long. So we're going to do 30 seconds. Okay. Then once I hit start, it's going to begin. Actually, I'm going to set it for 2 minutes because I'm going to explain a couple things. Okay. So I click start. Okay, now we see there are a couple fields here. First, we have this little microphone field, then a little question mark, and then we have these faces, and then we have a text input box. Then we also have these little plus buttons and complete session early. This microphone, if it's available, allows you to turn on speech to text. Once you click it, it will actually start to fill in the data or whatever you say. You can see that there is a button called Auto Submit. If you click that, once there is a long enough pause, roughly about, I believe, a half a second or maybe a second, it will automatically submit that data. That will allow you to essentially do hands-free measurement of what you reported. So you can also see that there are these little smiley faces. So for verbal thought tracking, this is used to be able to assign a felt sense of valence as that thought co-occurs. So this is really not, we're trying to keep opinions really out of this. We are really focused on measuring the felt tone that occurs when the thought arises. This gives us just additional data on what type of thought it is. Not only do we capture the words, but we also get to capture the positive, negative, or neutral valence that is co-occurring with that particular content, which is just going to give us more information when we start to do data analysis. So I'm going to turn on my microphone again, and I'm going to try to just report on some thoughts. I'm scared. I hope I don't sound stupid. Well, I really sound stupid because it's not recording my voice. Beta. Let's try that one more time. Hello, world. I love eating candy. Okay, well, as we can see, there's some bugs here, but at least it's not crashing the phone. These are the features I'm going to need, or the issues I'm going to hope that you all are able to report to me. But let's try one last time. Okay, testing. Please, please work. Ah, gosh. Okay, well, I'm going to have to edit this out or something. I'll figure it out. All right. So once you have completed a session, and we can see there are a couple issues here where the timer is over, but it hasn't submitted. Just another bug I'm going to have to squash. But fortunately, if you do come across this bug, which I'm sure you will, because I haven't figured it out yet, you can simply hit the Complete Session Early button. This will end the session automatically, or well, technically manually. Once you click this, you can do it before your session has ended, or if your session doesn't end, you can click on it to end it. Okay, so what we can see is the same data we saw last time, except the difference is because we've now reported some content, we actually have more information to view. So this chart, which is referred to as, I believe, a spider chart, shows you a diagram of the valence that was reported when you did this session. So for example, if most of the thoughts that you experienced were positively valenced, you'd click on, or you'd notice that there are a lot in the positive category. You can see a few were negatively valenced. And then you can also see that a lot were unassigned. The next thing we have is a content word cloud. So this works really well for verbal thought tracking. And this takes all of the thoughts that you reported and it groups them into a word cloud. By default, it actually will show you each individual thought that was reported. We can see that there's a really long one here that is so long that they had to make it really small. But this isn't that interesting in and of itself unless you have a lot of repeating thoughts, which can actually happen in my experience. So we have a couple of buttons here. This can be used to actually increase the size of the word cloud. And you'll also see another button, which is a splitting symbol. And what this does is it takes everything that was reported and it splits it out by word. So this will show you actually what were the most common words that were coming up during the actual recording session. And then lastly, we got this final button, which, by the way, if you long press on most of these buttons, it will show you a tooltip of information about what that button does. But when you click on it, you can see that it actually removes a lot of what are referred to as stop words. These are simply words that typically are just used to connect other things that don't have a lot of inherent meaning in and of themselves. This can usually be used to help you get a better understanding of the real content or meat of what is going on in your head. Okay. And then we have a timeline of what was reported and when. And I want to quickly note, you can see that there's a begin time and an end time. So the way that this works is from the moment you begin typing a new, thought into the input field, that is when this begin time, or that is what it's calculated from. Once you have stopped typing, that is what this is calculated from. So it's measuring essentially how long it takes you from beginning to ending typing in order to submit what you reported. There are quite a few things you can do here, such as highlighting sections and zooming in. You can click on the little home button in order to return the visualization back to its original. You can also zoom in using these plus keys. And then you can even actually filter by clicking on these different colors. So I can filter out the unassigned values. Yeah. And then lastly, we have this section called experiences. If you click on the drop down, it will actually give you a list of all reported content that you reported. It'll give you when you started, when it ended, how long it took you, and what reported valence there was on it. If you want to change the valence value, you actually can after the session. I'm a little scared too because I actually haven't tested this on mobile and it could crash everything, but we're going to give it a shot. Let's see. So I click positive, and then we can actually see that that will update all the other charts as well. Okay. So I'm going to click submit. And this time I am going to save it on device only. So I'm not going to share it. This is just going to be for me on my phone. Okay. So we have done a meditation. We've done verbal thought tracking. Now it's time to take a look at the stats section. All right, we see 4 different options. We see sequences, sessions, experience instances, and unique values. So what are these? Well, we actually look back on this page. iAm provides several key concepts that are very important to understand if you're interested in exploring the data you collect and getting deeper insights into your inner experience. So these concepts are, coincidentally, or I should probably say not coincidentally, sequences, sessions, experience instances, and unique values. Okay, so what we just did with 1, we meditated, 2, we did verbal thought tracking. Those are different sequences, or excuse me, those are different sessions. So a session, if I go to this, we'll see I have done verbal thought tracking and I did a meditation. And this table gives me the ability to actually do tabular-based queries of the data I've reported. So I can search by certain sessions that are available, and you can see there's a lot more. So maybe I only want to view verbal thought tracking. If I wanted to do that, I would just select that filter, and then boom, it only gives me verbal thought tracking. I can see if I gave the session a title, I can see it here. If I want to filter by start time, end time, how long it was. All these fields are available to search by. There are also additional columns that we can actually access to get additional bits of data. So if I turn those on, we can now see, it can show me how many experiences were reported. It can also tell me what they were, all kinds of stuff. And if I want to actually view that particular session, I can just click on the view button right here, and it'll take me back to that session itself. So sessions are individual instances of actually doing a particular type of session, right? So meditation or verbal thought tracking, I've completed 2 sessions so far. And sessions will always be implementing some type of session. So when I clicked right here, these 4 options are 4 different session types. If we want to add other session types, we can click these little buttons, plus session types, sequence types. And once we click it, we can actually see there are a bunch of options we can select from in order to add session types to our quick dropdown so that we can quickly use them. Now, there is a little icon right here, which is a little bookmark. If you click this big bookmark, like I did right there, we can then go to the dropdown and we'll see that that bookmark has actually now been added to our session dropdown menu. This just makes it a little bit easier if there are certain sessions you really like to be able to access them quickly. Okay, so I've explained sessions. Now is actually probably a good time to talk about what sequences are. And it's very, very easy to understand. Sequences are simply sessions that are done in a sequence, right? So, in fact, if you look at, let's see if it's available. Yeah, I guess it's not. We can skip that. So anyways, sequences are simply sessions done in a sequence. So, for example, broad body awareness meditation routine. This is a sequence. So I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to select it. And ultimately what this is it's like a very structured meditation where each step of the meditation is being measured individually so that we can understand where the data is coming from and what you were doing during that particular part of your meditation. So we can actually see in this particular sequence, there are 4 sessions or session types because each step in the sequence is its own session type. So pre-meditation preparation, so this would be sit down on the cushion, go through your intentions, why are you there, things to pay attention to, things to let go of. The Mind Illuminated book by Culadasa, has kind of a sort of pre-meditation preparation that you do in a very structured way. This would be the time to do something like that. Okay, so the next step in this sequence is Brahma Vihara, cultivation with noting. So this particular sequence I do quite a bit. And the reason is because I'm really trying to cultivate compassion. So ultimately in this sequence, and I'll actually show it real quick, but in this step in the sequence, you are just trying to cultivate the feeling of compassion, and then you're noting whether or not it's present. So this is really focused on helping you to develop that ability to feel compassion and noting whether or not it's there. Okay, the next step in the sequence is gratitude cultivation. And this is quite simple. You just think of things you can be grateful for in the moment, and you write them down. Really, really simple. And then lastly, we have a full body awareness practice. So there are instructions right here for how to do it, but more or less you're spreading attention throughout the whole body and you're trying to keep a very broad awareness of all of the content that's arising in the body. So being aware of all the little different sensations that are occurring from your head all the way down to your toes. And just like regular sessions, sequences can also have presets. So you're able to tweak how long each step in your sequence is. Currently, currently my pre-meditation preparation is set to 0, which actually means you can do it as long as you want. You just click the end button whenever you're done with your setup. Then it's 5 minutes of Brahma Vihara cultivation, followed by gratitude practice, followed by full body awareness. So I'm going to click, before I do, I want you to see there's this add pre-sequence notes. If I click right here, I can add anything I want in the input field. Now you can see I'm actually using the iPhone's native keyboard speech to text. I don't have speech to text enabled for this particular note field, and that's mostly just because this works so well that there's really no need for me to implement it separately. But hey, if there's a feature request for it, I'm happy to do it. Okay. And then I'm going to click Begin Sequence. So you can probably see that it's a little buggy because for some reason it's saying 44 minutes left. That's a bug, something for me to fix. But you do your pre-meditation preparation. Once you're done, you click Next. Then you move on to Brahma Vihara cultivation. And what we can see here is 4 buttons. So the Brahma Viharas are loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, sometimes sympathetic joy, I believe, and equanimity. And when I do this practice, ultimately, and I just push one of the buttons that corresponds to the feeling tone that I can observe in my body. To be quite frank, I'm not feeling any of these right now. But if I were sitting down, meditating, I would be trying to generate a feeling of compassion because it's just what I'm particularly working on right now. And if that tone is there, I press the button that corresponds to compassion. You can see when it's pressed, it gets a little bit bigger to let you know that you're clicking on it. And then if that tone goes away, I would release the button. Now, you might guess that the timeline is actually going to show when these were all pushed and for how long. Okay, I'm going to complete this early. And then we move to our gratitude practice. So I can definitely think of a lot of things I'm grateful for, such as the fact that iAm beta is close to being released, and whatever else comes to mind. You have the option of adding valence. Once again, valence is not required. You do not have to add it. It is an optional field for most session types. But if you want to, you absolutely can. Then I can complete it because I don't want to do another 4 minutes. And then we move on to full body awareness practice. Here you'd simply meditate for the amount of time listed on the countdown. And then once that timer is up, a bell will ring to let you know that your practice is over. I'm not going to do this for 44 minutes though, so I'm going to hit complete. And this takes you to the end and the post sequence review page. This will probably look somewhat familiar to the session review page, and that's because it functions fairly similarly. The only difference is there is a lot more data that you can view for each of the sessions. So you can take notes. I demoed iAm sequences. Okay. And now we can also see that we have a little slider to select between the different steps and look at the data. So pre-meditation preparation, there's not going to be any data because it wasn't set up that way. Now we have the Brahma Vihara cultivation. Because there's no hedonic tone being mentioned, it's not actually going to show any valence. I should actually get rid of this because a big blank square isn't very informative. Now, one of the things is that this particular type of session is referred to as moment or experience timestamping because we have a button input, it gives you the option of, or it gives you the ability, I should say, to press down when something is present and then release it when something is not present. So in this case, we can see compassion was pressed longer than any of the other ones, which is why it is the larger word in the word cloud. It's also really important to note, oh no, oof, another bug. It's really important to note that when you do experience timestamping sessions, the word cloud is going to show, or the largest words are going to be, or are going to correlate to whatever was reported the longest. So if you hold down a button for 5 minutes, but you've only pressed it once, but you held it down the whole time, that's going to be a very large word in the word cloud because it's based off of the amount of time it was pressed as opposed to how many times it was reported. And then we can see down here, and what do you know? There's more bugs to work on. But this is a timeline of the experiences of the Brahma Viharas that were reported. Unfortunately, it's a little buggy, but it should be bigger. We'll work on it. That's why I have all of you to hopefully help me improve this product. And then lastly, we can see little experiences right here. And we can see when it was reported. Yeah. Okay. So lastly, we have our, or not lastly, then our gratitude practice. We can see there's a timeline as well here. And then because this is content-based, we can split it out into words. And then finally, we have our full body awareness, which there's nothing really relevant to show because it's just to track that we did that practice and we're not tracking any content. I'm going to click submit and I am going to share this anonymously. And I want to point out something. We are in beta and it's a little slow if you choose to share something. So if I click share anonymously, it will take a little bit of time to actually share this data. This is because you're sharing, quite a bit of data, or my servers aren't optimized. It's one or the other. But I definitely encourage it if you feel comfortable doing it. But I kind of discourage it because it takes a little while to actually send right now. But changes are being made all the time, and there will definitely be more improvements to this every day over the next couple months. And I look forward to getting feedback from all of you so that I can make improvements that are going to improve your experience on this app. Okay, so we talked about sessions, we talked about sequences. We have two other tabs. In fact, I'm going to quickly click on sessions. Now we can see that actual session, broad body awareness, is now shown in the Data Explorer. So I'm going to go to Experience Instances. So what is an experience instance? Quite simply, it's simply an instance of an experience that was reported. So when we were doing Brahma Vihara cultivation, when we were doing verbal thought tracking or a gratitude practice, all of those, every time I reported something into the input, that gets tracked as not just an instance of an experience, but an instance of a certain type of experience. And this is, in my view, one of the cooler things about this app is that for every type of experience you report, it's mapped to some type of experience. So for example, iAm beta is close to being released was a gratitude thought, right? Which is different than, say, a verbal thought. So I want to kind of stress that with iAm, it allows you to define experience types arbitrarily. So you could say a gratitude thought is just a verbal thought. Well, it doesn't really matter because in this particular situation, we're interested in grouping that experience as a gratitude thought. And in verbal thought tracking, we're interested in grouping that experience as verbal thoughts. So all experience types come with their own definition of how they're supposed to be observed. And this is to kind of put some rigor behind how we observe our own inner phenomenology. Then we can see the four measurable minds is grouped as an experience type. Once again, these are totally arbitrary. I'm choosing to group them as this. Others may not, but this is how it is on the app right now. So under the Explorer, we can do things such as filter by experience type. We can filter by which type of session it was in, what valence was reported, how long it was reported for, end time, start time, submit time, all kinds of stuff. So once again, giving you the ability to really explore your own data. And then lastly, we have unique values. So what a unique value is on iAm is for any given type of experience, let's say verbal thought. Not all thoughts are going to be different. Some thoughts are going to have the exact same verbal content as other thoughts. In fact, big reason why I developed this app was because I started to notice significantly reoccurring negative thoughts. And I was quite curious how I could actually be data-driven about what they are, how often they occur, and help me kind of develop some, distance between those thoughts and myself. And what I learned is that certain thoughts tend to reoccur a lot. And this gave me the ability to better understand what they were and how to work with them in my own personal practice or with my therapist. And that's something I really want to stress is that iAm is there to really help people get a better sense of their own inner landscape in a very objective and data-driven way. And we can see, because currently the unique value list is sorted by frequency, and compassion has been reported the most. So it gets put to the top of the list. And to be clear, unique values are unique within their own experience type category. So if I have a thought that simply says compassion, it's going to be different than this particular value, compassion, because it's part of a verbal thought, whereas this compassion unique value is part of the four immeasurable minds. Okay, so that explains most of the iAm product. We see there's a little visualizer right here. This unfortunately does not work at the moment, but it will. shortly. I just have to make some improvements to how the data is queried so that the visualizations look very good. And that should be out probably within the next week or two. Okay, so there's just a few more things to cover on this app. We can see there's a little button right here with a little chat box and an exclamation mark. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to use this. If you ever have any issues, questions, thoughts, concerns, feature requests, bug reports, anything, you can just click on this little button and provide feedback. If it's general feedback, hey, I don't like how this looks, whatever it is, I want it. If you have a bug report you want to share, simply say, hey, this is where I was on the app when this bug happened. Give me as much information as you can. And remember, speech to text is available. So if you don't want to type it out, you can click on the input field and just use speech to text. Okay. Lastly, feature requests. Tell me how this product can be better. If there's something that you think would be useful for you in your own inner exploration, I want to know about it so I can implement it on this application. All right, that is mostly it. There's just one last part of iAm to share. Actually, I guess technically two, maybe three. So in this drop-down menu right here, we have profile information. So if you want to go to your profile, as you can see, this user does not have a first or last name. We could call this demo user, and we could give it a birth date of today. And app iAm does support dark mode. So if you want to utilize dark mode on this app, you can simply turn it on, or you can click auto, and that way it will automatically implement dark mode depending on the time of day. But I'm going to just turn it on. I'm going to click save. And well, that's another bug because it didn't actually implement it. But you can see right here, there's this little theme, and this gives you the ability to override whatever your default settings are and turn on dark mode automatically. Okay. There's also a little section called What's New. This can give you information about, you guessed it, what's new on the application. Probably some UI work I can do on this, and I will. But this gives you a list of what features are out. And the way this actually works is anytime I release new features, the What's New tab will show you whatever new features have come out from the last time you logged into the app. So let's say, God forbid, you don't use it for 2 weeks. If you log back in, it'll show you whatever new updates have come out in those last 2 weeks. Okay, lastly, we have the feed. So the feed looks somewhat similar to Instagram, and it essentially is just a feed of the content that has been reported on iAm. There's the private feed and public feed. Private feed is going to just be your local data, right? So if I toggle to private, it's going to show me only test user 42's data, and it'll even say private in each little card, so you know it's private. For the feed, we actually have access to the same visualizations that are on the review pages. So you can view the timeline, you can view a word cloud of this content, and I will hopefully in the near future, and I'm going to switch to public feed, be enabling commenting of content as well. So for content that has been shared, we can actually comment on it. Once again, somewhat similar to Instagram. It is disabled currently, and there's still maybe some questions if I should turn this on. Still not totally sure, but feedback from you is going to help me decide. And we can see that the data that was reported anonymously is shown right here. Yep, this is the session that was reported anonymously. There's good old demo user, another demo account. And we can see, let's see what demo user was thinking about. Okay, should have spoken up. Oh, he's wondering. Cool. Then there's other content. We can see iPhone, demo user, anonymous user. Um, yep, there's just a bunch of data that's been shown, I guess. Anyways, I think that actually wraps it up for iAm. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know. I am developing this application daily and trying to implement bug fixes and UI improvements and major features. And any feedback you have is really going to help shape the future of this product. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video, and I hope that you have a great time using iAm and exploring your inner world. Thanks a bunch.